Also ich bin hier bei Orange, ich habe mir mal Doc geschnappt, ich habe ihn schon vor ein paar Jahren auf der Musikmesse in Frankfurt getroffen und er ist total der geile Spieler. Ich habe ihn damals in Frankfurt so gesehen, er hat total geil gespielt und habe ich mir gedacht, was ist das für ein Typ? I mean, what I said to the guys in Germany is, I met you at Musikmesse some years ago and it's so personal, like, hey, who's that? Jakey Lee? And he's playing like, I don't know. And you are an insane player. I like that. And
very much.
yeah,
very much.
And I met you here again. I said, hey Doc, let's make a demo of the new NAMM stuff.
Awesome.
Right. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome.
So you're a product specialist of Orange?
Yes.
All right. So what is new here?
We have some really amazing stuff for this year. We have 3 main releases. One is the OR100 amplifier.
Yeah.
If you're looking for one amp that does pretty much everything, great clean tones, great kind of classic rock distorted tones, and then great lead tones. With kind of there's a little function called a gain boost, and it's a foot switchable function that's really kind of like a little tube screamer. You know, you've got the amp, you're like, I just need that little more button. So we've got built into the circuit, it actually just activates a little bit more. There's a little bit more gain in the circuit, and it's the same thing you do when you step on a tube screamer. You just want that little bit of extra edge, and it is just perfect.
I mean, I heard you demoing before, and your lead sound is insane.
Awesome.
Whoa.
The amp makes it easy to sound good, so that's the best sales pitch I could ever use.
Right.
But the reality is that what I love about this gear is literally as you turn a knob, it evokes something out of you as a player. And I think all of us who play, you go and you try an amp, and it's like, that position, there's nothing there. Or in this position, there's nothing there. What I really found with these amps is as I turn the different controls, I'm like, oh, that makes me want to play this riff or this sort of a style. Or, and so the neat thing is if you're looking for a bunch of styles, it has the range of that, the OR100, but yet at the same time, if you just play one style, you still have the ability. It's not like it does a bunch of styles okay.
Yeah.
It does them great.
Yeah.
So I love that.
What I like in Orange amps is that the gain is working on the whole distance. It's not only, you don't have a sweet spot, it's all good.
That's right, it's all good.
I don't know how they make it, but
I don't know how they do it either.
Yeah. You have a very good lead sound at 10,
yeah,
and you have a very good, like a classic rock sound
classic
at 3.
rock, and they both work.
It works.
And you can still actually go from rhythm to lead. And that's
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
It's a mystery. For me, it's a mystery. Normally, you have an hour. I mean, on really every amp, you have a sweet spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. So let's hear it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we're going to start off. We're going to start off on the clean channel, and I've got all 4 power tubes on, and we're at high power. So basically what we're doing is we're manipulating the headroom. We're getting as much headroom as we possibly can, which means we can really, as we go for that.
Great dynamic. It's
great,
and very spanky.
And it's spanky, but when you get quiet, it doesn't disappear. The other thing is, here's the. Oh wait, I had the gain boost in, so there. Out.
Yeah.
So it gets a little. More American sounding when you bring it in on the clean channel. Let me get to the wah-wah.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more a little more American. Yeah. With an F at the beginning.
Fender-esque.
Yeah, F-esque. Okay, we're gonna have way too much fun in this video. Okay, so now we're gonna switch to the dirty channel, and I'm gonna bring it down to half power. That's gain boost in. Here it is out.
really great classic rock sound.
Great classic rock sound. It just makes you know. Here's the thing about an amp. An amp is great when it makes you just want to play.
Yeah.
If it makes you want to play, you're just like, I plugged it in and I didn't want to stop playing. I had stuff I had to do. And I'm like, I don't care. I just want to play.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to go back to full power. And basically, when you're thinking about a high gain amplifier, you really wanted to have full power in the power amp section so you can actually manipulate the headroom. Because when you're going for a lot of overdrive in the preamp section, what I was trying to do there was balanced by going to half power. As I brought up the volume, it meant that I was getting more overdrive in the power amp section. When you go to a lot of gain in the preamp section, it's really when you want to actually have the headroom of a 100-watt amplifier. So the power amp is still kind of clean, but you're getting your gain in the preamp section, which means being able to bring the headroom up really allows you to get more, really where you hear it is not across the whole spectrum, it's really where on the bass strings where you really notice it. It's the definition on the chunk, if you will. So here, all right, let's hear the difference between half power. Sorry, now stand by. It's fuller too, just a little bit.
Yeah. 50 is a little bit more compressed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring the volume down a little bit and bring the gain up. And we're going to move into the fun zone. I almost caught it too. Watch me pull a pick out of my fountain. So anyways, all right, there's a tube-driven effects loop. So if you're looking on the G string for that, a lot of definition. You know, you add some wah-wah for the long note.
You're a big fan of Michael Schenker, right?
I love Michael Schenker.
I love Michael Schenker too.
So awesome. Yeah, we actually toured the United States with Michael Schenker. So yeah, so I got a chance to see Michael every night. Yeah. I got a chance to see his sound check every night.
Really?
Yeah.
So where?
The United States, all across the United States. Amazing.
I don't know.
Forget the Mercedes.
It's just the
Michael Schenker is Germany's greatest export. Greatest export.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
all right. So the thing about this amp is you can hear it just changes gears, and literally, you know, I'm just kind of turning a knob, switching, like, and I didn't have to look for the sweet spot. It already was like, all right, there it is. I did a little setup before the video started, but you could see I was just flipping switches and turning knobs. Yeah. That on most amps, you're asking for a disaster, especially when the camera's running. Yeah. Okay, we ready to move on to the Custom Shop 50?
All right.
Okay. Hi. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Very dynamic. Great mid-range. So, you know, there's just all sorts of stuff. And it literally, we just plugged it in, turned it on, and was like, what's it going to be set at, you know? cool thing about it is it switched between Class A and Class AB. So there's a switch around the back of the amp there. And that's now in Class AB. Let me switch back to Class A for a second and bring the gain way down, and you'll hear one of the... That other British brand that begins with a V. Yeah. Hi, Daniel. The sensitive is the chime. It's like, all right, so now we're going to switch over to Class AB, which actually it's a little darker. Monster. You just want to play little guitar riffs and not stop.
So when you hit the guitar louder, it sounds louder.
It sounds louder.
Yeah,
but there's still a little bit of compression.
Yeah.
So like you hit, yeah, it has the right amount of give that if you hit hard, it gets louder. But when you hit hard, the transients, the really ugly ones, they go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So the last thing that we're going to be talking about here is something that is really totally revolutionary, and this is the VT1000 valve tester. And players love...
There's so many bad tubes on the market, man.
There's so many bad tubes on the market. And, you know, players, what we have not had the opportunity to do is know how we tell the difference between a good tube and a bad tube, other than, like, I put it in there and it doesn't sound good. Yeah. But I think as a player, so I'm going to answer your question in a slightly non-marketing way. As a player, we know that our tubes are really important to our sound. We don't always know what we need to do to get our tube sound where we want it to be. And generally speaking, we've ended up using pedals when we want to, like I mentioned before, like that kind of, I need to step on a pedal to make my amp do something more.
Yeah.
Ideally, with a circuit like the OR100, that extra foot switch there enables you to actually do what we've essentially gotten used to doing with the tube screamer. Well, in a well-designed amp, there should be enough control over the preamp section such that you can find a preamp tube that is the right amount of gain, so that you can get exactly the amount of gain that you want out of your preamp, and in theory either pull off on your volume control or do something, maybe if it's a 3-channel amp or whatever, where you can manipulate the gain. So the point being is that knowing a very specific value for your preamp tube enables you to go, I want this much gain in my preamp tube, just in the same way you would take your tone control, or sorry, your distortion pedal, and adjust the amount of gain on the distortion pedal and kind of get it just where you want it. Yes, there are controls on the front of the amplifier, but literally they only control the amount of gain in the circuit, which is why if you compare like a distortion pedal with an overdrive pedal is mimicking power amp distortion, which is not as distorted, versus preamp distortion, which is like a distortion pedal, which is way more distorted. So if you look at the difference between the two, and you think about how much distortion, if you kind of compare the range of like the amount of distortion in an overdrive pedal, which is really overdrive, and the amount of distortion in a distortion pedal, which is really a ton of distortion, where in the range of that you want your preamp section to be dialed in tonally. Because really people are using overdrive pedals, an imitation of power amp overdrive, but they're running that into the front of their amplifier. So really they're stacking multiple gain stages before their amp. So essentially determining the value of your preamp tubes becomes very, very, very vital, because that's what is the gateway into the rest of the circuit, even if you're using pedals to get your tone. So the point being is that being able to, on a scale from 1 to 15, you basically stick the tube in there, you turn it on. These allow you to select which type of tube you're going to be using there. And then once it's done testing, and it does a very extensive set of tests, it'll come to sit at an individual number for a power tube, which is basically going to tell you whether it's an early distortion, an average, or a late distortion. And generally speaking, in case you didn't know this, early distortion is where the tube breaks up, there's generally less headroom, and it's generally not as loud, which is more classically like a lower wattage Fender amplifier. The middle point is kind of a little bit more in the middle. At the upper end of the spectrum, this is kind of what I was talking about with the OR100, when you're playing with actually a lot of distortion in your preamp section, you don't actually want a lot of distortion happening in the power amp section. You want it to give a little bit, and when you turn it up, you want it to not, because when you turn an amp up really loud, it gets really fast.
Right.
You hear, because of the sound pressure level, it feels like the sound is right in your face.
Yeah.
And because of that, you begin to notice certain frequencies jump out a lot more than others. So you want to make sure that you've got the ability to, with the power amp section, to gauge exactly, and this device allows you to literally on a scale from 1 to 15 determine how much gain you've got in your power amp section with the tube, so you can kind of figure out how much saturation you're actually going to get and how early or late you want the distortion in your power amp section. That is a massive amount of control in both of those ends of the amplifier.
Also was er gesagt hat, ist jetzt ein bisschen kompliziert, er hat sehr viel gesprochen, aber was er gemeint hat, ist, dass Röhren sehr, sehr wichtig sind, wenn es um Verzerrung geht. Das ist ja ganz klar, aber im Prinzip genauso wie Overdrive-Pedale. Das heißt, wenn ihr Pedale verwendet vor dem Verstärker, dann habt ihr eine Verstärkungseinheit, die praktisch in die Vorstufe reingeht. Genauso wichtig sind aber auch die Verstärkungseinheiten im Verstärker. Das heißt, wenn man da auf die Röhren achtet, dann so kann man das ganz genau designen, wie das sein soll. Und das kann man mit dem Gerät sehr gut, weil es einem zeigt, wie die Röhren oder wo die Röhren funktionieren, ob sie früh verzerren oder spät verzerren. Yeah? So I mean, what I told to those guys is that it's very important to set up the tubes because of the amount of distortion or of the amount of headroom, right?
Absolutely. There's one other consideration. Orange has another product called an OV4, which is, it sits in the power amp section of either a 50 watt with 2 sockets or a 100 watt with 4 sockets fixed bias amplifier, and it enables you to mix and match tubes at will without having to rebias your circuit.
All right, okay, cool.
And so basically this enables you to test the tubes. That device enables you to just drop them in without having to rebias your amp.
All right.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so that's it for the NAMM news. You're all the best.
You are the best. That was so much fun.
Yeah. Will you be at Music Messe again?
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay.
And Dankeschön.
Say hello to Germany.
Hello, Germany. Cheers.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.